coming to you from the all-new Live House in Hollywood, California.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week's episode of Pensado's Place. He's Dave, I'm Herb, and in a second, you're gonna meet our guest who is Babyface's partner, talented guy. But first, summer's coming up. We got a lot of crazy things that we want you to come join us with. We'll be in Nashville at Summer NAMM. We're gonna have a new contest in a second, in just a couple weeks, where you could win a trip to one of the largest gear expos and festivals, actually called Gear Fest, in the country. Lots of goodies for you coming your way. It's gonna be very cool. On another note, we wanna just take a moment and recognize a compatriot of ours that had a tough battle and finally left this mortal coil. Dave Aaron, a good friend of ours. Dave, what do you say?
Well, Dave was a special guy. There was a time at Larrabee in the 90s when it was a real cool team and we were all there. Dave Way was there and Neil Pogue, and Aaron was like, he was a really generous, kind person, and we lost a good one, you know? Rest in peace, Dave.
So, important for you to love the one you're with, recognize that time is precious, and be respectful of it. If you would, please like and subscribe, sign up for our newsletter, and click notify. You're about to meet a consummate musician, songwriter, producer, composer, happens to be Babyface's partner, but there's a lot more to him than that. His photography skills are incredible. Please enjoy our conversation with the one, the only, Antonio Dixon. Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Here we are finally.
Yeah, finally.
Good to see you, Tony.
Yeah, same to you, Dave.
You know,
a lot of B's. You told everybody named B.
Yeah, right.
In researching, you've had a long career. We've known each other for a long time. We all have. One of the things that I appreciated that you said, but I wanted to sort of get context was that beat makers are not necessarily producers.
I agree.
So
yeah.
Explain what you meant by that.
Yeah, well, for me, I believe that I take on the notion that a producer is very similar to how film producers brought in. You're hired by a company to bring a finished product to them for the use of marketing and for, obviously for distribution. And to me, beat making is a part of the production process, but is not the completion of the production process. Especially in the type of music that I do, I look at the, you have to really understand musicianship. You have to understand song structure. You have to understand songwriting. You need to understand mixing and mastering and every component. And that's how I came up, and that's the way I learned how to produce records. And a lot of times, especially with, the way that hip hop is kind of taken over mainstream, we've taken it that the track is the production of the record, and it's not, in my belief. Yeah, I think it's definitely an important part of it, and it can add, it can be more important than other parts in different genres. But to say that that's the idea that you can do a track and that you produce the entire project or produce an entire song, it's not done yet. You still need to get other elements to make sure that it's complete and then that's ready for marketing and for use again, for commercial use. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing that I've always enjoyed about your craftsmanship is that you are inherently musical in what you do. So even your use of software, you utilize it in such a way that you really get this musical kind of analog thing out of it and fight for that. Is that, am I hearing that properly?
100%, 100%. I'm a big fan of the analog world, but I also am a big fan of the technology and the speed that you're able to work with technology. And we've now gotten to the point where I think technology sonically is starting to catch up with the analog world. And so for me, I always tried to figure out a way to make it so that I could work fast, but at the same time get the sound that I, grew up loving and listening to. And a lot of it, even for me, when it came to learning the software part, was out of necessity. That era when you didn't have any money to hire a guitar player, I had to learn how to wing it, and I had to learn how to emulate the guitar that I wanted, because I knew what I heard in my head, but I wanted to make sure that I was able to actually convey it when I was able to get a musician in and not just give them just say, okay, do what you think you hear, and it not necessarily satisfy what I heard.
Right.
Yeah, so for me, I learned a lot of things out of necessity and learning, learning the sonics of how a Moog works and learning how, soft synths do actually work, but actually how to make them sound the way I wanted them to sound, not just pulling up a preset and those things, but just being able to really get the sound that I really loved and then being able to carry that over into the world of, the acoustic world and saying, okay, if I got a musician, if I got a bass player, then I can go ahead and finish it the way that I hear it in my head and giving them the freedom to do what they do as well.
I think that's one of the great things about today. I mean, every endeavor in a creative sense has a certain amount of art and a certain amount of creativity.
Agreed.
And a certain amount of technique, craft. So basically it's art and craft.
Right.
And without a certain amount of craft, if Van Gogh didn't know how to size a painting or how to mix pigments, there would be no Van Gogh.
Agreed.
And I think the beauty of today's world is we have access to both equally, whereas at one time you only had access to my profession if you had a lot of money,
Right.
Or relatively speaking, a lot of money. And it left a lot of people out. But what's the importance of like a new technique or a new sound to you?
It's obviously it's very inspiring when you get a new technique that you have the freedom to kind of try that now.
Does that usually lead to a new song?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of times for me, like you said, whether it be a new sound or a new technique, it gives you an idea that you can say, okay, now I can go ahead and see where let me go ahead and try to create a song out of this. One of the things that I do a lot is if I get introduced to a new software or a new plugin or whatever, I'll try to, my challenge to myself is, let me try to create an entire song just based off of this plugin. Let me just see how how it sounds. And if I can create something that I really, really, truly believe in, and I'll do that repeatedly over and over again, and then I'll learn the nuances of it. I watch you a lot.
Oh my goodness.
and I study all those, because it's important though, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm the same way.
Yeah. That it keeps it inspiring because being able to say that my way is the only way, you're gonna kill yourself off if you go, you take that approach.
So true.
And what do you learn when you watch yourself?
Yeah, what do you learn?
Well, it's not a pleasant thought. I'm not one of those kind that takes the time to look in the mirror. It's just painfully clear if you go back and look at our old episode.
We'll leave it there. On your journey through LA, and we passed each other, worked with each other, and so on and so forth. You went through a number of production teams that were well known as you were establishing yourself. But in the last 10 years, you've been Babyface's partner.
Yes.
Right? I would imagine, particularly over this time period, let alone where you work, what an interesting way to not only work at the craft at a very high level, but also to work on a variety of things. Is that part of the experience of working there?
Absolutely. The beauty of working with someone like Kenny is that, first of all, to this day, he still works as if he was hungry, which I love about his work ethic and his love of music. Literally, it's not about the money. It's not about the fame. He could care less. If you asked him about credits, he doesn't know. He leaves that for everyone else to decide. He's really about the inspiration of creating the next song and creating the thing that's inspiring. And so, when we come in, to this day, he'll come in at 10 a.m. and if I get there earlier than them or shortly after, he's already got music playing that he's working on and creating. And, we've had periods and sessions where we'll write and we can sit and write 10 or 14 songs in a few days.
Wow.
Just the writing process and getting that exercise going. And I hadn't experienced that before. I'd been through systems, like you said before, where, certain songs would become an assembly line, or it could be, a group of people, not to hate on writing camps or anything like that, but, you'd have writing camps and you'd have all these people throwing their input, but then to have those moments where we would actually sit and sculpt songs, and we would do 2 and 3 versions of songs, and let's rewrite this verse, let's rewrite this hook, and we can reach, we can stretch, we can do all these things. And then at the end of the day, finding out that process is actually the thing that excites me. And so for us, it's been a great experience. And, working with him, like you said, the variety of projects you get to work with are the things that keep you inspired. You can work with a Colby Calais, and then you can work with an Ariana Grande or Aretha. We got to work with Aretha on the last project.
That must be amazing.
It was amazing. It was amazing to get to do all those things.
It feels to me that there's several different types of people in our profession. Some that do it as a job, some that do it as a career.
Right.
But with Kenny, it's a lifestyle. It's not something he can alter. That's who he is.
Absolutely.
And when you see that, it's inspiring and it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
It's like you said, he can't help but do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Yeah. To me, that's it. I always wanted to model my career, if you want to call it that. I always wanted to model my career after those people that had longevity. I never wanted to be that person that had some massive run and then my run stopped and then I had to try to figure out a way to chase it back again. I always wanted to stay under the radar, and I always wanted to make sure that I was able to consistently work over time.
You've done that.
And that was always my goal, was to just be able to work over time and to be able to work on a lot of different projects and just be able to, I always said, whatever that level of money that keeps you right under crazy, let me go ahead and make that. And I'm okay with that.
That's a good lesson for the audience.
Yeah, really, you know.
True.
And Kenny's the poster child for longevity.
Absolutely. You know, no better model to have than someone like him.
I don't know the statistics, but he was probably the most prolific, successful writer of the 90s, wasn't he? Wouldn't you guess?
I would say so.
I can't think of anybody that could touch him.
Well, that team, I mean, there was Jimmy and Terry and LA and Babyface, but that team certainly was one of the all-time greats.
Absolutely.
And went on beyond the creation of music to do significant things around music, but beyond that. And you guys have been winning Grammys for Grammy noms and Image Award noms for the Toni Braxton relationship, which has always felt organic since Boomerang.
Yeah.
Since back in the day. But part of what I think is always a challenge for guys who've done it for a minute is that you want to be current too. So you guys are developing a lot of things. Talk about the development slate over there.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done is we wanted to make sure that we always kept a young ear around us. You know, we've had some great producers, Christopher Riddick Tynes and Leon Thomas, and the Rascals. Those guys. You know, we've had them around. We have some other producers that we're developing and songwriters and things like that. And you know, because we're at that point where we don't necessarily want to go and be in the club trying to figure out what everybody's doing, but we want to make sure that we're way past that. But you know, really want to just make sure that, again, we understand that trends change and trends change quick, and we want to make sure that when we do music that it's organic and it's also very true to the art form. We don't want it to come off sounding contrived. You know, it's like, okay, these guys are just trying to do things. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that also being a great producer is knowing the things that you're not good at. And bringing in those people that can do what you can't necessarily do until you understand it. And that's one of the things that Kenny's a master of. He's always been okay with that. We leave our egos at the door when it's time to work. Whoever comes up with a great idea, we don't care. And as long as it's done at the end of the day, if we get the song first and the song is great and it does what it's supposed to do, then our mission is accomplished.
And that's also part of the philosophy that you talked about earlier, where the producer really, the production approach is more like a director.
Right.
I'm going to look at that part and find that person to do this part, and I'm going to keep the vision and weave it all together as a whole.
Absolutely.
As opposed to I'm the person who's going to play everything, do everything. You know, there are those types too, and some of those are brilliant, but that's not the particular thing. So tell us about some of the acts.
Yeah, so for example, like when we did the Ariana Grande's project.
No, I want to hear some of the development guys.
Got you. Oh yeah, so yeah, we have this artist that we just signed that we're really excited about. His name is Alex Angelo. And this kid, he's amazing. He's out of Ohio. He's a one-stop shop. He's a songwriter, producer, dancer, arranger, singer. He's amazing, you know? And so one of the things that we really tried to focus on with him is just trying to, again, show him the ideals of longevity and trying to write those type of songs that are gonna obviously give some stuff that has some trend to it, but at the same time, we want him to try to come up with some copyrights. We want him to come up with those songs that'll last, you know, where we have some people covering his music and making sure that he really understands that. And then also understands that in his gift, go ahead and say, when you're not doing great as an artist, be able to be a songwriter, write for other people. If you have some great songs, again, like Kenny, you have those moments where you may write a great song, but that song isn't for you.
Right.
Well, if you understand that you have that gift, then go ahead and give that song to another artist and understand and discern between who are the great artists that can deliver that message for you better than you can and be okay with it, you know? And I think that's one of the things that we've done. So again, Alex is an incredible artist we've been working with. We work with some, I've been doing a lot of stuff with an artist named Angelica Villa. She's an incredible artist. This artist out of the Bronx, actually. She's amazing. She's been coming out later on this year. We've got a couple of other artists that I can't really talk about, but we have some really exciting things that we're doing over there.
Well, you mentioned Ariana Grande before, so in producing that record, what role does Kenny play? What role do you play? How does it work inside that context?
And how did it come about?
Okay, yeah, well, like with that particular project, like Leon Thomas and and Ariana had a relationship from their TV show they had done. And so Leon and Chris had actually brought it to us as an opportunity to look at. And we actually did half of her first album, the Yours Truly album. And they were like, they're trying to figure it out. She hadn't really discovered her sound yet. And they felt like we could go ahead and deliver it to her. So we had her come over and we talked with her. And there was a record that we'd actually done, Kenny and I had actually done, that was a part of the records we'd submitted for Beyonce's 4 album, record we did called Baby I. And we played it for her label, we played it for her. She was excited about it, she loved it. We had her come in and record that. And then as we built confidence with her, and she, and with her label, we were able to do a lot more records. And so it just became us doing more and more records. And like you were saying before, there was a record we did called Tattooed Heart that's on that album, which was actually a skeleton that she had brought to us. And she was like, can you go ahead and finish that? And again, it was something that we were able to
she was like 18 then?
Yeah, she was like 18.
Wow.
Yeah, and you touched on kind of where I wanted to go is, so it wasn't just her as a vocalist. Maybe that's what it was in the beginning, but as it got comfortable, she felt good about bringing her ideas. Did you guys ever sit down and co-write together and do things like that?
Yes, actually we did. That's a part of the process that we like to do. Again, referring back to Kenny, Kenny's a master of being able to sit and really understand the psyche of an artist and asking the right questions at the right time, just to understand and be able to pull those emotions out of them. And so that's what we would do. We would sit down and I sat and talked with her, and Kenny sat and talked with her, and we would just see what she's going through, the things she wanted to talk about, the things she wanted to avoid. And then that's really how I think you give an artist the freedom to be who they are. And then again, they have to create this music that is believable. They're the ones who have to go out and sing it night after night, and they gotta love it just as much the 1,000th time as they do the first time they do it. So that's what we try to do every time that we do a record.
Did you ever give any consideration that that she was 18 and not 35? Because a lot of that record reminds me of Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Was that intentional or unintentional? Did you try and make a record for her age group, or did you just make a record?
No, it was more make a record. I think at that particular time, we really wanted, you want to understand the personality of who you're dealing with. And so you want to make sure that you do some things that they would feel comfortable talking about and saying. But at the same time, she was comfortable whatever road we wanted to go down. I think she had, at that point, she had recorded a lot of records that not herself and the label were even excited about. And so she was more really just trusting of our decision-making and things like that. But we wanted to make sure that she felt confident in knowing that the things that you feel are right. But we just got to figure out a way to say them in a way that's going to be marketable and, work for you. And that's what we did.
In your creative process, give me the snapshot. What DAW do you use? What software do you use? What do you rely on?
Okay.
How does the Toni thing work?
For me, I'm a Logic kid, so I've been on Logic for a while. It's funny because when it comes to cutting vocals, though, I'll switch everything over. We'll usually bounce a 2-track down, dump it into Pro Tools, do our vocal cutting there, or piano, whatever acoustic stuff that needs to be done. We'll do it there, and then we'll take. What I'll normally do after that is I'll take all of the vocals that I've cut, clean them up, bounce them down. I'll take all the audio back into Logic, and then I'll finish the production that way. And then by that time, we'll take all the audio, export that back out, and then have it mixed that way. So it's
different things give you different controls. Is
Absolutely.
That right?
Yeah, different things give us different controls. Like for me, because I understand Logic so well and so quickly, I'm able to manipulate the MIDI of that really well. Yeah. And with Pro Tools, it's the same with the audio. So
Software. What plugins and stuff are you a plug-in do?
I'm a plug-in junkie.
Yeah.
I'm big on, I use Sample Tank a lot. I use all of the Spectrasonic stuff is amazing. I love your stuff, the stuff you created with Waves and all those things. I use Arturia stuff because like going back to what you were saying, going to the analog world, I love their modeling. And then you have Splice now, which is an incredible introduction to the, it's an incredible resource.
I just downloaded the Boy Wonder.
Yeah, that kit.
Amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And so there's so many different ways that you can now constantly be fed your ideas. And the one thing I love about where technology is going is, like, I have a library, this massive library of sounds and all that other stuff. But what ends up happening is when you want to be creative, you want to be able to get to that point quickly. And I don't want to sit and go through terabytes of sounds and try to find a piano.
Continue.
And so, Yeah, and so you have a thing like Splice where it's like, okay, now I can narrow my search and just say, or like the Native Instrument Sounds, you know, you can just go through and say, okay, I'm looking for something that has this type of feel to it. And even if you don't necessarily use that sound, it can inspire something that leads to something else. And it's the same thing with songwriting. You can have someone who can say a word, who could inspire. It may not necessarily be that lyric or that concept, but it leads to something else. And so those are the things that I'd love to do.
How do you organize your samples? I can never find the sample I want because you end up with like tens of thousands, you know? How do you organize your samples?
I've started to do it by genre. And
of course, kicks.
So it'll be kick, snare. Like I'll have live kicks and kits, and then I'll have you know, pop kicks and pop snares and things like that. Dance, country, big, small, you know. And so that's usually what I end up doing. I'll do a lot of narrow searching that way. But again, music is even changing when it comes to the hybridness. You know, you can end up using 808 snares on a country record. Yeah, absolutely. And it works. Keith Urban. You know, exactly. You know, so you have that happen a lot.
Do you like, tell me how a song starts in your mind. Is it music? You hear it, like you were dancing a minute ago to some kind of song that'll probably be on the radio tomorrow. How does that process work for a creative person?
Yeah, well, for me, I've come to understand that you really can't schedule creativity. And so, you know, it's not a faucet you can just turn off and on when you want to. And so what I'll do is I'll take whatever comes to me at that moment and I'll go ahead and make sure that it's filed. So like, for example, if we're having a conversation and you may come up with a great concept or a great sentence or a great, you know, I may say a great title. I may not necessarily have access to a keyboard or whatever, so I'll make sure that I write that title down. I'll write down that concept. I'll write down or hum melodies in my phone, in my voice notes, memos for later. You know, when I'm sitting when I'm in the studio, and then it's about creating the music, and you know, I can come up with the chord progression or come up with the beat, or I may hear a loop in Splice or one of those things and say, okay, I may not necessarily want to use that loop, but let me go ahead and kind of, you know, morph that into what I hear. And so that's what I'll do a lot of times is I'll, you know, take all those different instances and put them together. Only because, again, we're not necessarily allotted the freedom now with a lot of artists where you have a lot of time to develop and really hone in on writing a bunch of songs for the artist. You may only have that artist for a day or two. And so they're coming to you trusting that you're going to deliver something for them to go away with. And so when, you know, I've just come to understand that. And so when it's time for me to get into the studio, what I do is I try to make sure that I'm as equipped as possible. I have some concepts ready. I have some titles ready. I have some loops ready, you know. And then whatever it is that is inspiring him, he or her, then we'll go ahead and just develop it that way. And then we'll just try to see if we have a song comes from there.
When you write with a Kenny, for instance, are you doing lyrics as well too, or mostly music? And he, you know, you guys share. It goes either way.
Yeah, we share. We do share in that. He's, over time, I've come to. He's come to trust my decision making when it comes to songwriting, and the great thing about Kenny is that he understands what it is that he does, and he looks for those people that don't do what he does, you know, and that's what he wants to surround himself with. And so he appreciates my musicianship and my songwriting and my engineering and all those other things. And so when I'm writing with him, the great thing is that we may sit and do 5 or 6 songs in a day, and you know, and he's able to just jump and constantly stay inspired. It could be him sitting with a guitar. It can be me sitting again, coming up with chord progressions. I may throw a concept out at him, which is one of the things that happened with the Beyoncé record, with Best Thing I Never Had. I had that concept written down, and I knew what I wanted the song to be about. She came to us and said what she wanted to be done on the record. We started to create it, and I sat and I said, why don't we do a song that has this title? Let's go about that one, you know, she's now the one that got away. Let's make that, the theme of our song.
So a title created and produced a whole song.
A whole song, yeah, just off of a title. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I think, you know, with technology, you can grab your inspiration and record it and hold it and make a repository from it. And also creativity, or what we see a lot with creative people, is that different things inspire them, right? So different creative outlets. You know, we've had people who cook. We have people, photography. Isn't that a space for you?
Yeah,
a space of creativity? Yeah, where did that come from? And does it affect your music stuff?
Absolutely. It's actually a parallel world. It's really interesting.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
By the way, great photographs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a parallel world. What I found is that the idea of being able to take the vision or the auditory thing that you hear in your head and that thing that you hear in your mind or see in your mind and being able to make it tangible is one of the greatest gifts that we've been given as human beings anyway. And then, but beyond that, like when it comes to the photography world, it was very much about, okay, I had these ideas and I had these visions of things that I wanted to do. I was always really big on coffee table books. Like when I'd go to studios and I'd see those Motown books and those fashion books and all that, and I was like, these pictures are so epic to me. And I just, it was always inspiring, but I didn't really know how to do that. But what I did was I took that exact same process that I did with developing and teaching myself music. And I said, okay, let me go ahead and invest my energies and my time into the photography world. I taught myself retouching. I taught myself, how to do all of my own equipment, my lighting setup. And I invested in the time in it. And I actually was humble enough to go ahead and be under other photographers and just watch how they worked. And for a long time, I didn't even tell that particular world that I did music just because I wanted to make sure that it would stand on its own merit and really do what it did. But for me, when I realized that I started actually making a living doing it and working in photography as well, was that they're very much about learning how to marry the things that you love with the things that they want. And that's the same thing when it comes to music. Yeah, you have to be able to do, sometimes you can't always do what it is that you love, but you gotta add a little piece of that element, but then you've also got to deliver what they're looking for and what they want, what they think is going to be commercial, what's going to work for them. And that's what I have to do.
Also, too, sometimes musical will create a visual image in your mind. Like
Absolutely.
if you hear a Telecaster through a Fender Twin, you think Beach Boys, beach music,
Right.
And also sometimes musicians hear in color.
Absolutely.
I don't do that.
Colors in their head. But
Pharrell has that gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've seen
Bruce
several folks.
Swedin does that.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have that gift.
No,
But
I don't even know if I want it.
I might not.
I'd be driving and say, ooh, wild.
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to run into a pole or something.
Right, exactly.
When you create, what's your home instrument? Is it keyboard?
Keyboard, yeah.
Do you play anything else?
Yeah, bass and drums. I
Got
picked
it.
up bass a little bit later and drums too.
Got it. Melodies important to you?
Melodies are everything.
Yeah.
Especially on the songwriting end. A melody can stick with you more than a lyric can.
I agree.
And so I'm not a singer by any means, but that was one of the things that I really spent a lot of energy and time trying to hone that craft and trying to develop that and just really understanding how melody I feel should rise and fall. There should be dynamics in melodies. There should be movement. There should be, understanding how, again, back to what we were talking about being a producer, understanding and trying to come up with melodies that complement the music, and not always getting in the way of the music. And, coming up with different things that will make, the song very interesting. And again, we're at a bridge now. Okay, we're at the bridge. We're gonna make the song, the melody needs to rise from where it is based on the hook. And how do you pull those things back?
bridges, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I miss them.
Me too.
Yeah. So
Let me ask you something. So, I can't imagine what the answer is going to be. You know when you've done a good melody, but how do you know when the melody's already been done and you might be plagiarizing it? How do you know that? Can you find that out or just wait for the lawsuit?
well, hopefully you have a good team of people around you that you'll play the songs for that will, if it does trigger that, if someone
But
says,
you have a team that you do that with?
yeah, well, you'll play it for your friends and peers and, some of the producers and things that we'll have. And I'll ask, if, I don't necessarily have to ask, but if somebody says that sounds like such and such, and I'm like, okay, well, let's
But
go
I don't
listen.
think you could really create that way. Don't you have to just sort of create?
Yeah.
And then we'll see where it ends up.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes, just like with anything, sometimes using the melody is the best way to present that song. And you just need to be okay with that and saying, okay, if we're gonna use this particular melody in the song, let's go ahead and understand that we're gonna have to give up some publishing on it. But again, song first. If that was the idea for the song and that particular melody just drove that part of the song, then we need to go ahead and rock with it, And that's just always been my take on it. Song first, every time.
So, we play this little thing around here called Batter's Box.
Okay.
I assume you're familiar with it. All right. Dave has a certain pride about it, but it's like 0 and 400. So let's tee it up and see where it goes.
Virtual Sense.
Love them.
Key. Song key.
C.
Wrong answer.
Right.
Reverb.
Space.
Perfect. Beats per minute.
100.
808s.
Overused.
Subjects for songs.
The artist. Love.
I
I
got
go with love.
Okay. I got bridges written down. So
Yeah.
so bridges.
Missing.
Vocals.
Important.
Collaborations.
Longevity.
Adult diapers. No. Give me, I had to throw him a curve.
Right.
It's baseball. You throw him curves.
Yeah. Well, he was going to answer Dave Pensado.
I really was.
I know exactly.
Pensado's place.
Yeah, but I got an endorsement deal with Depends. It's okay. In fact, I can have them on now.
Can't unsee that.
Yeah, me either.
What's the cheapest piece of gear you've had on a hit record? You've used on a hit record, besides the plug-in, you know.
My phone.
Nice.
Explain.
We've taken, there's a record I've done where
By the way, your phone's $1,000 damn, but
Yeah.
I'll accept it.
Well, yeah, the phone app. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, I used a voice memo of a melody that I had, and we actually implemented the melody into the song, and even the using your voice and your mouth to do kind of the beat, and we actually did.
Is it a song we would recognize?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
But I have done it before.
So you won.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, yeah. Be humble at least. I'm a sensitive person.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You done whining?
That was championship acting right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you did really
it was
well.
acting.
Like championship wrestling, championship acting.
Yeah, it was kind of like championship wrestling.
Right.
For creative people, the importance of a home is critical, right? Something you know, something you rely on, something that to me it unblocks. We were talking about shooting here at the Live House, and the ability to walk in and know that it works and that it's set up allows us to go on and do what we need to do. Same for you. Tell us about Brandon's Way and why that's been home.
Yeah.
What makes it special?
What makes it, for me, I'm a firm believer that you have to get the noise out of your life when you're going to create music.
God, well put.
Yeah. Noise and music don't compete. Noise is going to win every time. And so,
well put.
So what I like to do is with Brandon's Way, it's a peaceful environment. It's made for creatives. We're given the freedom, and I'm given the freedom to create and get a thought out. It's not we don't have a lot of writers there. It's a boutique spot. It's not, we don't have a lot of in and outs. It's not a public place. It's not one of those things where we have a lot of different distractions. That's basically what it is. We keep the distractions out. And so it gives us the freedom to be creatives. If Kenny has a great idea and he's, hashing his thought out, he'll bring it to me and say, what do you think of this? And that's great. Let me go ahead and rock with this, and I'll run with it. And vice versa. I've thrown him ideas and curves for him to just be like, okay, that's great. Let me go ahead and work with that track. And the way it's set up at Brandon's Way is all the rooms are kind of mirror each other anyway.
Okay.
So we have the freedom to bounce between rooms. We have several setups, but we can bounce between the rooms. So again, I can take a basic idea or a skeleton that I've taken as far as I feel I could take it, and I can run it to Kenny, and he can run it in another room, and he can finish it and take it to a whole different place that maybe I didn't hear, or finish a bridge or whatever, and vice versa.
How many rooms?
There's actually 3 rooms there.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's only 2 control rooms, though, right?
Yeah, there's 2 control rooms. We actually turned the Serum, the small room, we actually have made it a full-fledged room that it has Pro Tools working. We have a vocal booth in there and everything. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's really what
When
it
you
is.
walk in, is that guitar cabinet still full of guitars?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We've been showing it.
Yeah. His guitar collection is amazing. Yeah, his guitar collection is amazing.
Amazing.
And it's like being able to walk into a museum and or just being able to think that you have every toy at your disposal any day. And,
all the tools you need.
All the tools you need. And I feel like if you can't walk out of there and at least come up with something inspiring, you're probably in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Because everything is there.
Wow.
And that's what, if you have the luxury of a great home.
Right.
And I think in today's world, a great home can even be a bedroom studio. As long as you have the stuff that you need. I was watching you at NAMM, and you were doing a tutorial for IK Multimedia, our friends there that we both know. And you were building a track, and it was you and software.
Right.
and it was just a keyboard and some monitors and you doing your thing. And I watched this flower emerge that was just really incredible. And, you know, you needed space about this big to make that happen. So comfort can be any place, you know, you just never know where it might be, and you know, you go for it and you get it done.
I kind of feel like, just to add to what you're saying, to me, when I think of space that's necessary to create a great record, the space that's necessary more is in your mind and in your head than it is in a physical space now.
Well put.
A massive studio is not necessary anymore. But you do, like I said before, you have to get the noise out of your life. You have to be in a creative space that allows you to do the things that you hear in your head, you know? And to me, when I think of that saying of getting the noise out of your life, sometimes where the distraction could be you trying to chase money. It could be you trying to impress other people. It could be the fact that you're trying to duplicate what was done on the radio. You have to do any of those things that compete with you being able to be the best you that you can be creatively. You have to be able to get all of that stuff out of your life and keep it away from the music world, because you're not gonna win. I've learned that. You're going to lose every time.
That's also a formula for life in general.
That's absolutely true. It's fun to watch friends who have had a long run and their success didn't affect who they were personally. Because you've always been this guy. I mean, I think that what you talked about earlier about being right underneath the radar, something long and steady and so forth, without noise in your life, is exactly who Toni Dixon's been. If you go check his music and go check the things he's worked on, things he's partnered with, from records to soundtracks to all kinds of stuff, his music is like who he is, and we are honored that we did the show. Thank God we're into it now, bro.
I'm humbled that you guys even had
No, man. You've graced our stage. Dave, why don't you take us home?
Hey, guys, I'm going to do something a little different today. I love when Toni said that the creative space is in your mind, and that hit hard today. Another one was you can't schedule creativity, and thinking about these things, I think it's going to improve our creativity and our lives. And then my favorite was just get the noise out of your life, and I think those are the headlines for today, and I'm going to try and accelerate the usage of those concepts in my own world. So thanks for sharing that with us, and we'll see you next week.
See you.